at DuBois_22.
I'm Jeff Bell at For Whom J. Bell Tolls.
And I am Christian Williams at C. Williams NFL, and this is the Devy Royale.
I do this day in and day out, all night long. Yeah. This is all I think about. This is all I care about. Y'all all I care about. Let's go, man, it's here. We televised, so you know we gotta show out. Yeah. They talking junk, so you know we gotta put them to sleep. Yeah. Let's go, man. Let's go. Don't play. We do this every day. We work too hard, day in and day like I told y'all. They don't do what we do. They don't do what we do. They never done what we did.
To the races, can they catch him? No, they can't. Touchdown.
Welcome to another episode of the Devy Royale, a member of the Going for Two family. Today on the show, we're going to be doing a Devy breakdown on 3 of the top Big Ten West teams, which that's not going to be very fun, but we're going to do it anyway because this is what we're here for. And there is not a lot of talent over on that side. Picking up mashup of sports events, our top 5 2024 quarterbacks, and discussing the best and worst bowl games in college football. But before that, we're going to dive into some football news and some college football news here. And you know what? We're getting close to season. I can feel it, guys, because we're starting to get some polls and we're starting to get some hot seats and media days and all that. So the first thing I want to get you guys is opinion on here. They came out with a preseason poll, a college football playoff preview of who they think it's going to be. And they are right now, they think it's going to be Alabama versus Ohio State and Clemson versus Oklahoma. Jeff, is that pretty much the consensus, or do you think they're wrong on that? And they actually had Oklahoma winning the national title against Alabama.
Finally, Oklahoma making that step and winning an actual playoff game or multiple playoff games would be great for the program. I'm not ready to go there yet. I certainly understand why that they could land there. Spencer Rattler coming back and him getting all the attention. But certainly it's – Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, maybe Georgia, maybe Texas A&M, but it's going to be all the usual characters, just like it is every other year. This is the way it is right now.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I don't think this is going to be the first matchups. I think Bama and Ohio State probably will be the 1 and 2, with maybe Oklahoma being 3, just based on maybe strength of schedule. I really don't know what the committee judges by. They just kind of pull things out of a hat, I think, every year. And so I guess these are the 4 teams. And shout out Dabo for saying that there aren't 12 teams good enough, because I think he's going to lose in the first round of the college football playoff again. So shout out. Well,
he lost to the 11th best team in his mind last year. So, yeah.
That's true.
Maybe he needs to not talk a little bit, Dabo.
Well, I do. Dabo has some problems. I'm going to go to Jeff for this question because he loves Dabo. That was like his favorite coach. What do you think of that statement today where he said there's not really 12 good teams? Why should they make it to that? I do think there's a little truth to that. Like, I do think there's a little bit, like, I understand what he's saying. I don't necessarily agree with him, but I think he's coming from it. Like, it's going to take in a certain way because Dabo's an idiot when he talks. He doesn't understand his surroundings. It's kind of like Twitter, like not knowing what you should say or shouldn't say and how to say it. What do you think about what he said today?
What's the problem with going to 12, I guess, is my point of view. And I think I look at it right now, and you look at the scheduling that some teams are doing. It's like they'll play a game, a quote-unquote big game. Like you have Ohio State playing Oklahoma or Oregon to start the season. That's great, but at the same time, the Oregon, I don't know that they are a real threat to come into Columbus and win. Certainly they could. But at the same time, it's one of those that looks great on paper, but then at the same time, once the game kicks off, the talent level becomes very clear. And so if you're going to get better matchups, if you're going to kind of stop playing the buy-in games, essentially, playing the Division II team, essentially, that Youngstown State comes down to Ohio State and just collects a paycheck and and loses and goes off on their merry old way. If you start having some real games, because that you lower the margin for error, the ability for multiple teams to get in. And so teams can maybe, I know that attendance has started to be a real problem with college football. And certainly right now it's hard to judge what it's going to be because we're in COVID times or whatever else might be. And maybe everybody's just so excited that it's over that they all come back and pack the stadiums again. But if you're not paying those, Akron or whatever it might be, that's an automatic win. And maybe you start to bring in some real games and you're playing Arizona's not there yet, but like at the same time, like a Texas Tech or a team like that, where you're starting to have more cross-conference Power 5 games that are being played. So we start to see more talent move throughout the country. We start to see more willingness to be aggressive in the scheduling, I think could be the biggest thing.
No, I agree. I think that's the key. It's just having better games, right? Like, yes. I love that the Clemson and Georgia are playing each other. Like, that's awesome because at least we get a real good game at the beginning of the year. Christian, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, to the original point, the 12th team isn't going to do any worse than the 4th team does every year. And so that's fair. The argument for me is you give 8 more teams an opportunity to maybe – like you're going to root for the Cinderella teams too. It's definitely a fan based mindset. Obviously it's money based and we talked about that a lot, but you've got a bunch of people rooting against those big dogs and those big dogs probably pulling it out anyway because they're more prepared for the playoffs. Like you guys said, playing real games in the season is going to be fun. It's going to make the entire sport better, but there's an opportunity for a 12 seed to go in and beat a 1 seed. If it probably will happen maybe once every 25 years, but that time it happens is a memorable sports moment. And that makes it, that makes it worth it in my opinion.
Yeah, and real quick, I look at the Cincinnati Georgia game from last year, the bowl game. And it was a great game, but it was like a noon game. It was kind of the Sugar Bowl. It wasn't a playoff game. If that were a playoff game, imagine how much different the atmosphere would be, how much different we'd be talking about it now versus, it's just kind of being like, oh, that was a good game. Yeah, I checked that out while I was nursing my hangover after New Year's.
Yeah, that was on SEC Network today, by the way. Rewatched it. Great game.
Yeah. And I think I've watched too much college football in my life already. I still remember the Boise State game against Oklahoma when they beat them. And I'll always remember that game. I remember where I was at, everything. Like, if we could get some of those highlights in college football playoff, why wouldn't we? That would just build everybody up. So I do think Dabo is wrong a little bit on that. And he also doesn't want to play that many games. Like, let's be real. Dabo wants to play 2 games, get a championship game. So there's a little self stuff there. Now, I do want to go into this because they did actually bring this up. And they're talking about coaches' hot seat and guys that are on the hot seat. And we've kind of talked about this a little bit of guys we were concerned with, like, hey, where they're at. But it's funny to get other people and bigger websites and bigger magazines and everybody talking about this. So here are their top 5, and I'm just going to have you tell me what do you think about maybe the number 1 or wherever you think. Justin Fuente from Virginia Tech, Dino Babers from Syracuse, David Cutcliffe from Duke, Mike Norvell from FSU, and then even Manny Diaz in Miami is number 5. So of those guys, who stands out for you, Jeff?
Fuente, I'm half surprised he's still there just because Shane Beamer is lurking out there. And I feel like that would be kind of the home run hire for Virginia Tech to go out there and get Shane Beamer and bring him in. Norvell is another one that, Florida State, I grew up with Florida State being the dominant program. And so there's no excuse for the talent level and where they are right now. Obviously, Norvell just took that job, but at the same time, it seems like things are not starting out great for him.
Christian, what do you think?
Man, I think when I first saw Manny Diaz on this list, I thought, I don't know if that's right. I mean, they actually have odds to win the national championship. But when you look at the actual talent that they've had and what they haven't done with it, I can understand it. Miami's supposed to be a top 5 team every year, and they haven't been in quite a while. I don't even remember the last time that Miami was dominant. Early to mid 2000s, like the first decade. I don't know. So I can understand why he's on this list. I know you'll probably talk about Dino, Kevin, because I think you mentioned him a couple of weeks ago. Someone mentioned Dino and how there's just no reason he's still there. So I would say he's the first to get fired off this list. But yeah, these guys make some sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, Dino there, I already kind of mentioned him. I'm surprised he's even there. But, Fuente came in and he was hot from Memphis. They thought he was going to be the guy. Yeah, I think he won 10 games his first year, and it's been awful since then.
Yes.
It just hasn't looked good. And Virginia Tech, Beamer, they've done a good job there. It'd be interesting to see who else they could get and maybe who's going to be that guy. Mike Norvell's got to show that he can do it. But again, it's kind of like that. And like David Cutcliffe, who's going to win at Duke? Like, he's done a pretty good job at Duke football. Like, but I like leading this list. But like you said, Manny Diaz, he didn't take that Temple job. He left. He came back to Miami. He looked good that first year. Remember, everything, turnover chain, everything looked good. And then he had awful quarterback play. So it'll be interesting to see if he can develop, because now it's his guys. Now it's not those Rick's guys anymore. So now what can he do with it? And then the last thing, we'll be quicker on this. Media days are coming. Are you guys media day guys? You like watching it? Are you that degenerate, or are they fun, overblown? Or do you just say Nick Saban just yells at people and doesn't say anything? Yeah.
It's nice to get stories. It's nice to feel like the game's coming back.
Content. We have content finally, right? A little bit.
Yes.
We've been so deep in football for months already with nothing really to talk about. So actually something to talk about is decent.
Yeah. I'll take that time while the media day is being broadcast, and I will watch games from last year instead, and I'll just read up on the media days. So
yes.
That's fair. That's a fair point. I just like Saban. He always gets mad, or he'll drop one of his Saban bombs or whatever. SEC is great. I love how the SEC is all blown up, and in the Pac-12 they're just in like some room. But that's college football to a T. All right, well, we're gonna break down the Big Ten West, and we're gonna go through some teams right now, team breakdowns. We've been covering these guys for the last few weeks, going through different teams, the SEC, and now we're going to the Big Ten. Now we're going to start with Wisconsin. I think they're an interesting team to kind of cover and go over and look at. Jeff kind of broke them down for us. So, Jeff, what did you see with Wisconsin?
Yeah, so starting out, the biggest parts in their schedule is really the first 3 out of the first 4 games. They open up with Penn State being a noon game at 9 on September 4th. Then they've got I forget who it is, but it's a scheduled game. And then they've got Notre Dame and Michigan right after that on 9:25 and 10:2. And that Notre Dame game is exciting, I think, and that'll be a good test of the program, both their program and Notre Dame's program. Plus, it's the Zach Cohn Bowl, or the Jack Cohn Bowl. So, maybe. So, and maybe, and I know Notre Dame's playing Cincinnati and they're playing Wisconsin right back to back. And so it'll be interesting to see where Wisconsin stands out of that, because if they run that gamut and they get through the Penn State, the Michigan, and the Notre Dame, I mean, this might be a team that we're looking at the end of the season, essentially being 12-0 going into the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State. It's very possible with the rest of the schedule. Devy relevant players. Graham Mertz is a guy that, I think a lot of people were very excited about him coming in. He's a number 3 pro style quarterback in the 2019 class. Had a fantastic game against Illinois to open up his career, 20-21, and 5 touchdowns, everything that you could want to see. He looked really good. He looked poised. He had really good ball placement in that game. And then it just COVID hit. He got COVID, he got sick, and it's just everything fell apart through the rest of the season. The team really just kind of fell apart through the rest of the season. Jalen Berger is an exciting running back. I think he's got a lot he needs to work on. When I watch him, he runs very upright, and he's also one of those guys that sometimes you see these young running backs come into college, and you can tell that they're talented, but when they get the handoff, they run into the back of their linemen because it's just like they're ready to go. And that was a lot of what I saw with him when I watched him. Was he was going, and it didn't matter if it was a fullback in front of him or whoever it might be, but he'd run up their back and he'd be down. But I do think that he's got some special ability if he's able to work on that patience, if he's able to develop as a runner. And then Jake Ferguson coming in, I think he's like maybe tight end 12 or something like that in C2C. And so I think he's a guy that he could have a lot of solid college production in the C2C format. And I do think that he looks like an NFL player. I mean, he erases people in the run block game. He does a fantastic job of that. He's got size that you'd want to see, and especially last week we talked about some of these tight ends being more receiver frames, and so he is a more traditional tight end, and so that's a guy that it'll be interesting to see what kind of draft capital he does catch. But like I say, he does do a very good job in the run game and blocking, and so that was one thing that stood out for him. Sleepers, man, it's Wisconsin, and I feel like Wisconsin, it's hard to pull the sleeper beforehand, because it's like they get these guys like Quintez Cephas, and nothing about him would pop out on tape. He's slower, but he just produces. Then he ends up in the NFL. The guy that I'm looking at right now coming in is Marcus Allen. He's 6'2", freshman wide receiver. He's got that great wide receiver frame that you like to see, and we'll see whether or not he can develop. And he's a guy that they stole from Michigan on signing day. So that's an interesting one to see. 2021 outlook, I think that this is going to be a good team. It really comes down to that first month, how they get through those first 3 out of the 4 games. If they run that, then we could be looking at this team as threatening to be in the college football playoff.
So Berger's going as a running back 20 right now in their ADP. Do you think that's fair? I mean, so guys going around him: Zamir White, Ely, Kamar Wheaton, Sincere McCormick, Jerome Ford. Like, I feel like he's probably better than those guys, but some people are drafting him pretty high.
I don't know. He's right there. It's just one of those things that you see the W on the helmet, and you know that all the guys that Wisconsin sent to the league, and he's got a long ways to go. And so I like him over some of those other guys that are in that area. And, we've talked about Ely a lot, whether or not what happens with him, but he's if he puts it together, I think that he's an NFL running back, depth chart probably. I don't know that he's really taking a big line share, but he does have talent.
Who would you rather have, Christian, Zamir or Jalen?
Zamir. Yeah, barely. So I think Zamir is going to be better this year, though. I just really want to see how that backfield shakes out. But Jalen's good. He's good.
Yeah. No,
I have him on my C2C team, so I don't know.
Well, we know how that works out. Hopefully he doesn't, get another career or find something else. All right. Well, hey, that was Wisconsin. Like I said, this side of the Big Ten is interesting. It's an interesting kind of area. I feel like it's Wisconsin's division. It's weird how they talk about that, even though Northwestern was there. Christian, what did you see with Minnesota?
I actually watched Minnesota's spring game as well, and I broke that down. So this was a bit easier for me, but they open with Ohio State. So 0-1, that sucks. And so then they follow up they have Maryland on October 23rd and Indiana on November 20th. That's 3 losses to me. And the rest of their schedule is just pretty much your in-conference schedule that I think they're probably going to lose most games. And the reason I think they're probably going to lose most games is because they've got a couple of NFL level linemen, I would say, and they've got a couple of long shots at their skill positions, and not a very good defense. In terms of Devy relevant players, you've got Muhammad Ibrahim. This is a guy I really like. This is probably my favorite Devy asset on this roster. But he's probably not taking a whole backfield at the NFL level. I think he's a committee back. And so if that's your best Devy asset, I think you're in trouble. I'm not even going to talk about Tanner Morgan, but I want to mention his name because he was my QB4 heading into last year, and then he literally pooped on the field every week. Granted, they only had a few weeks. They didn't have a chance to kind of get into the swing of things, but Tanner Morgan definitely regressed last year. Where I think he might be a Devy asset will be in the last round of every rookie draft, because he gets drafted in the 6th round in the NFL draft because he's got NFL level qualities, I guess. We'll say that's the nicest way I can put it. Outside of that, Chris Ottman-Bell, I think that's going to be a decently drafted, probably a day 2, maybe day 3 guy. I like his film a little bit. My favorite wide receiver there, though, is actually Daniel Jackson. He wasn't able to get things going last year, but he's got a good frame. He was a 4-star. Like I said, last year for Minnesota is a very hard gauge. What you have to kind of do is just look at the talent, and outside of those 3 guys, there's not much there. In terms of sleepers, I wrote down Zach Annexstad because I think there's a chance he gets on the field. I think it's Tanner Morgan's quarterback room until he goes out there and he loses it, but I think there's the chance that he does that. Annexstad is the better quarterback. I'm intrigued by him moving forward. I don't know that he's a Devy asset yet. We're going to have to see him actually play, but if he gets on the field a little bit this year, I think he could generate some buzz and start moving up in ADP in Devy, mostly C2C. 2021 outlook, they're a bad team. They're a pretty bad team. And so I think they lose 5 to 6 games. I think they have a shot to sneak into a crappy bowl game just because it's pretty easy to get into a crappy bowl game these days. So 5 wins is probably what I would project. But overall, Minnesota roster is not one that I am targeting outside of Muhammad Ibrahim.
Jeff, are you worried about them at all? Ohio State first week. Are you worried about that game?
No, Kevin, I'm not worried about that game. No, I don't, yeah, but I do think that Ibrahim is. Christian makes a great point that he's a guy that if you draft him now, his price is a little bit depressed, especially if you're playing straight Devy, not C2C. If you take him, he's a guy I think he's just going to smash this year. And I think it's one of those things where he's going to be in the conversation. He's going to have a massive year. We're going to get to January next year, and then you're going to be able to flip him because I don't know that he's going to test well. And so it's one of those things that he comes off the buzz of the production and everything else, and then you can flip him for an asset and not worry about what he's going to run at the combine and then not worry about how things play out with the draft, just a name that's exciting because of the production that he comes up with. And so I think that's the play that I had somebody reach out to me and ask me, would you take Ibrahim or would you take Tyler Goodson out of Iowa? And I told them Ibrahim because I think that he's got a better chance of that kind of situation playing out.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Jeff. Sorry, Kevin. I will say we'll just call that the Kenneth Gainwell effect from now on.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Sorry,
I'm sad about
it.
R.I.P. We all have our moments.
R.I.P. my running back 3. Now, yeah, I would say, I like that. I like that call. Ibrahim. I had somebody ask me about Ibrahim. A lot of people are asking us about him because I think there's a lot of question marks like, what is he? But I think that's a good call trying to get rid of him. He's not going to test well. I almost guarantee he's not going to test well. So if you want to try to get out of that value quick, you can. I think in January, I think he's going to have a great year. Like, I think he's going top 3 in college football drafts. So I know people know that he's going to produce, especially in that offense. There's not a whole lot of offense. I mean, those guys are there. I like Chris Autman-Bell, but again, some people are talking a little bit too high for me on that one. Now, let's go to Northwestern. This will be quick because I was trying to find Devy relevant players, and there's really no Devy relevant players. Their schedule, and shout out to Wisconsin, or excuse me, Northwestern. They've done a very good job in that program. Like they, going. Hey, I think have they probably been to more Big Ten title games in Michigan in the last 10 years. So there is that. But so I don't want to out shout them.
Have you been to a Big Ten title game?
Hey, F off, Jeff. So I would say. Northwestern, their schedule is interesting. The game that I put down, they played Michigan State first game of the year, but the schedule I put down was Wisconsin. They play Wisconsin November 13th. I'm assuming that's probably going to be for the Big West title to see who goes to the conference championship game. And that'll be an interesting game for them. They missed out on Ohio State this year. So, their schedule's not very hard when you look at what they're going against. They got Rutgers, Nebraska, Michigan, Minnesota, those schools that aren't very good. I can't wait to get out of the Big Ten, so I don't have to talk about Michigan. Now, Devy relevant players, there's 2 guys that I just kind of want to point out. Ryan Helsinki, he's a transfer, or Hilinski, I think I have to say his last name, from South Carolina. Last year he threw 2,300 yards. He had 11 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in a terrible situation in South Carolina. Just was not good. Muschamp getting gone, all those same things. When you watch his tape, he came out of high school very highly touted. He was the pro style number 2 quarterback. He's strong. He's got size. So when you look at Ryan, he's 6'3", 230. His accuracy was always really poised there. I think he needs a new era. And that is the one thing to kind of know about Northwestern is this is probably the best quarterback they've had in a while. They've always kind of relied on just ground and pound and kind of ball control. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I don't know necessarily if he's Devy relevant yet. He's more C2C relevant, but I kind of like him. He's all right. I think that he could be there. And then the other kid, I do want to say Hunter Johnson's on the team. He's the backup quarterback. I know he transferred from Clemson. He's the guy that I took over Joe Burrow in the last round of one of my Devy drafts 2 years ago that I will never forget because that's just Devy in itself. Now, Cam Porter, running back, he's from Ohio. He's 5'10", 220, so he's actually got a pretty big frame. He should be the starter there next year. 81 rushes last year for 333 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he's got the frame. It looks like he's going to get the volume. can he become a Devy asset? I think that's up to him, how well he develops, what he looks like, the volume that he's going to get. After that, Steven Robinson is a grad transfer. He probably would be their leading receiver. Malik Washington's there. I don't think any receiver is going to be really relevant in this space, especially with just who they are. Sleepers, I see Jeff put probably some safety on the show sheet. Probably, there's no sleepers on this team. They're all sleepers. It's just who maybe can become relevant. I don't know. Outlook, I put 8 wins. That's pretty fair, I think, for Northwestern, somewhere around there. Maybe compete for a Big Ten title again and then lose in the championship game against Ohio State or Wisconsin. I think that's kind of what their season's going to be. But that's pretty good for Northwestern. Do you have any opinion on Ryan Helsinki? Christian, have you watched him? Have you seen any of his tape?
No, I knew of the buzz, but I really haven't gotten a chance to watch him. I'm intrigued though. They had Peyton Ramsey last year, right? That's who their quarterback was.
Who is not good.
No, but ironically, against Ohio State, he was making some NFL level throws. I watched that game and I thought, man, this kid they should be better. But then I watched the other games and realized why. I hope that's not the case with Helsinki, because I think they need some type of passing attack. They did lose a good amount of defensive players, impact players as well. So I don't think they're going to be as good this year. I think it's probably Wisconsin's side this year.
Yeah, no, I think it's Wisconsin's side. And like we said, there's not a ton of Devy relevant guys over here on this program. But I think Jeff had probably the best one with Wisconsin. All right, well, hey, we're going to jump into our top 5 2024 quarterbacks. So we're moving our way into the different area. I think there's a lot of movement that's going to be had in this class. And so there's a lot of guys that unknowns, I feel like. I think people think that these guys are going to be top assets. There's a lot of misses in the quarterback classes. And we're going to go over our first guy, who is a kid that he's getting drafted right now. He's QB8, actually. And so all on potential, and that is Oklahoma quarterback Caleb Williams. Jeff, what do you think of Caleb?
He's got the hashtag Konami upside that you like to see. He's going to be in that Oklahoma system. And so certainly people are very excited about him for good reason. We've seen Lincoln Riley's development of quarterbacks, and you can see on the tape here, he's able to make guys miss. But I just think he's got all the tools that you really want to see, and especially at a kid that this age, and knowing the system that he's going into and knowing how they are able to develop players. There's good reason to be excited.
Go ahead, Christian.
I was just going to ask you a question, Kevin. With Spencer Rattler's inconsistency and lack of willingness to kind of run the offense and just kind of do his own thing, do you think there's a chance we see a little bit of Caleb Williams this year?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think that's crazy to think that he's going to get some run, because that ability to run. Rattler's not that guy. Rattler's not a rushing upside guy. He's a pocket quarterback for his size, which is weird because I think some people think that he can run. But even in high school, I think he didn't even have over 200 yards rushing. He's not a runner. Caleb does have that ability. So I think we could see a little bit of these guys playing in there. I think he's going to push Rattler, though. I think his talent level, he's going to get there. And maybe this is the kind of kid that Rattler needs to push him to actually hey, you know what? You need to play within the system. We have somebody here now that can actually push you for that job and be there. So that's what I would say. I do worry about his – I think he's a great athlete. How good of a passer can he be? I know in the spring game he looked better, and I think that he did take some strides in the Oklahoma spring game. But you saw that a lot of the highlights I found was him running the ball, a lot of power runs, QB runs, stuff like that. So I do agree. I think that he's going to push him a little bit.
Yeah, my point on that was I would say he was better than Spencer Rattler in the spring game, but we know that Rattler was pretty disconnected, I think. I don't think he wanted to be there. And recently, NFL draft circles have come back around and said that Rattler is by far the QB1 from what I've been reading. So I think he'll get sprinkled in. Caleb Williams is really good. He's my quarterback one for this class, but I don't know. If Rattler has another game where he gets benched, does he ever get the job back? I guess that would be my main question. It's something to keep an eye on. I don't think it happens, but I think it's worth mentioning.
I think that, I don't know. I'd be surprised if Lincoln Riley to do that move, because I think that part of having the quarterback system, and we're going to talk about Ryan Day here in a moment too. Part of getting these recruits in is sending the guy to the NFL and putting that highest draft capital that you can on that guy. And so I think benching a guy for the last half of his prove it year because you like the young guy a little bit more, when the situation that would lead to that is probably a loss anyways. And it just feels like that would be, short circuiting your system, essentially, your team a little bit, I would think.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I took that off the rails.
No, but Rather's got to get his shit together, right? Like Rather needs to show that he wants to be, the NIL thing is real. Like, I don't know if people saw Bryce Young. Saban said he maybe has 7-figure already. Like, and I don't want to sound like the old dude, but I just will these kids really they're making this money now? Are they going to develop now? Like, are they going to be able to do they have that drive? Like Rattler's probably gotten tons of sponsorships, right? And I think of you guys when we were in college. If I got a check like that, dude, I'd be out. Like I was living off $5,000 a semester. Like these guys are college athletes now, and usually their drive is to get to the NFL to make that money, and they work their ass off. Like I think that's the one thing I do worry about. You worry about that at all?
A little bit. And
I'm a boomer. Christian's not a boomer. I'm a boomer.
Well, especially with Rattler, though. I mean, that's a guy that we know that was a problem in the past, and I think he's moved past that. I heard a couple of interviews. He sounds like he's maturing, which is good. I think it's a long shot. I'm excited to see Caleb Williams next year, but I think he does get sprinkled in, and we'll get a little bit of a little appetizer for next year.
All right, now we're going to look at the second guy, and this is a kid that I actually I've fallen for. He's my dude. I purposely ranked him higher than Kyle McCord to piss Jeff off, and that is Drake May, who I really like. I know Jeff, yeah, whatever. But if you watch him, he stands in there. This is my favorite throw from him right there. He stands in, gets hit, he's able to deliver the ball. He's going to be special. Like, I really like everything I see from him. It's hard with freshman quarterbacks, but, Christian's now a North Carolina fan, so he's going to be watching him a lot. I love his size. I love his intangibles. His delivery is really good. I think he gets the ball out quick, and you'll notice it here. And he's got that velocity, and he makes those back shoulder throws really well. I like this kid. Like, I think once North Carolina loses Hal, he's going to step right in and be just that dude. And I think that he is the QB2 of this class, where he's going to push for QB1 status. He's that prototypical size, big kid, 6'5", 210. Like, there's so much to like about him. What do you see with that, Christian?
Look at the different arm angles. That's what I get excited about. Like, he's got that 3/4 release already, but you can tell that he's going to start to develop some of that sidearm stuff and all that stuff that gets NFL teams all jazzed up. But the thing so he's the reason I'm a North Carolina fan. Okay. I picked my team a few weeks ago, a couple months ago now, actually. And it was during the spring game watching Drake May. I said, he can scoot too. Like I'm pretty sure he was recruited as a pro style, but I think he ran for over 100 yards in their spring game. He was actually a gifted runner in terms of, granted, he couldn't get hit in the spring game, but he was evading tackles. He had some wheels. So if he's able to kind of get some of that rushing market share on that North Carolina team, which is going to lose some running backs again after this year, I think we're looking at, I've got them back to back, literally 9 and 10 right now in my Devy rankings, so it could easily flip. I love Drake May. Jeff, do you love Drake May?
You love the tools. So I guess maybe I'd ask you the same question. We talked about Spencer Rattler potentially being benched. If we're going to come at my CTC team, maybe Sam Howell might take some plays off to allow Drake May to come in and make some explosive plays. I feel like you could make the same argument there. And it's one of those that we're really starting to see the top quarterbacks filter to schools. And Mac Brown's done a fantastic job to get North Carolina in that conversation. But you would think there would have to be some level of creativity and some level of rotation and allowing different guys to play just for a development standpoint and to keep that recruiting pipeline going.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I love his angles. The 247 Sports, their comps sometimes are all out there. They comp them to Sam Bradford. And like you talk about the arm angles and those type of things, like I can see the arm angle part. I don't see. I think the size. I think he's a better athlete than Sam Bradford ever was, and he wears his shoulder pads way better. All right, yeah. So there's our QB2. QB3. We're gonna let our boy Jeff talk about Kyle McCord. What do you see with Kyle?
Yeah, he's coming in. I think that maybe you can make the argument that he's the most polished passer out of anybody in this class. He coming in with a more of a pro style offense that he was in high school. He wasn't running around like Caleb Williams or Drake May and making the plays quite to that level. And certainly his dad has plenty to say about his ability, and he'll let you know on Twitter about it. But we're very excited to see what he can do. He continue that lineage and really start the Ryan Day to build that quarterback factory up in Columbus. But I really want to hear what Christian has to say.
Well, wait a minute. Where do you have him ranked? Where is he ranked for you?
Out of these guys, he would be my quarterback too. Okay.
All right.
That's fair.
Go ahead, Christian.
What I wanted to say is he's a better passer than CJ Stroud right now. I think we saw that in the spring game. I think if you watch that video, he worked through his progressions really, really well. He hit his check down a couple of times, which you don't normally see out of freshman quarterbacks. You'll see someone like Drake May taking off and running for over 100 yards, which is cool too. But when you're talking about pure passers, Jeff, you hit the nail on the head there. He is probably the best pure passer in this class. Now, I think a guy that we'll talk about here in a second might rival that, but I think McCord's more accurate. I think he's got better field vision. I'm intrigued by that quarterback battle. I think it's less of a battle than we want to make it out to be. But like you said, his dad definitely wants the battle to be known that Kyle McCord is going to try to win that job. I think we could see that's another guy. I mean, I think all three of those guys are going to get on the field a little bit this year. McCord definitely will have the opportunity, at least in blowouts, to start to generate some buzz. And I think that's another guy. I think this class is all a big toss-up right now. I think McCord could end up being the quarterback one as well.
I mean, realistically, we might see McCord the whole second half of that Minnesota game. Like we mentioned, they could be beating Minnesota really bad in that first half, and then McCord comes in and just, hey, let's see what this kid's got. And if he does really well, then you're like, damn, both these kids can really play. So, that's a good problem to have. I think the one thing, every once in a while when I watch this film, he makes those throws to the numbers on the outside really well. And, you're like, damn, he's got an arm. And he can make those tosses. And, even though if you're watching it on the video, there's a couple that it wasn't a catch, but the way he basically placed it on that corner on the outside, and he made a great try to grab on that outside. He has good placement and stuff. I think that sets him apart from Stroud. Stroud is an athlete. Stroud's a stud. I know he works his butt off, those type of things, but you can't teach what he has, and that's just the arm. And that's just one of those things that he's going to push forward. I hope that it implodes that team. I hope they fight. I hope they pick factions. I hope it does just ruins Ohio State. That's my goal. All right, QB4 for us, or kind of around that area. And I apologize to everybody watching. I don't have the film. I had some technical difficulties. But Brock Vandegrift, Brock is a 6'3", 205, going to Georgia. So he's going to be playing behind JT Daniels. And you know what? From all accounts, he looks to be a pretty good option here. Christian, what do you see with him?
He's a gunslinger, if I've ever seen one. He will not hesitate to chuck a ball up over the middle of the field, pretty much hospital balls. He's cool with it. He doesn't care. He's got the arm strength to get it there, though. He reminds me, I know the next guy that we're about to talk about gets some Stafford comps, I feel like. We mentioned that maybe. Was it Stafford? I think it was Stafford.
It's just from me because I made that comp. But yeah, no, I will take it.
Yeah, so Vandegrift actually reminds me of a really young Stafford as well, a college Stafford. He's going to be able to make plays. He's fun off platform, but I think he's a guy that he can get himself into trouble getting outside the pocket. It's not going to work in that Georgia offense. That's not what they want him to do. And so I don't think the fit is there. And we've seen Georgia quarterbacks that have to leave because they don't get the playing time and they don't get the opportunity to even fight for their job. I think we could see that with Brock this year, because I think there's a chance that if he matures as a passer throughout this spring or fall practice, he's better than JT Daniels, because everyone knows by now how this show feels about JT Daniels. It's just about if he can mature enough to where they'll trust him. He won't get on the field, and then there's a chance he leaves. And I'm excited for that. I think wherever he goes is better for him.
Poor Kirby, always getting people to leave. It's kind of Kirby's fault, though. Jeff, what do you see with Vandegrift? Oh, you're muted, Jeff. There you go.
I don't even know if he's the backup quarterback. With Stetson Bennett there for some reason Kirby likes to keep Stetson Bennett around. So it's like, he's got a huge to even see the field this year. It feels very unlikely. It almost reminded me a little bit of Trevor Lawrence watching his high school film. And I think it's just, he's not as big as Trevor Lawrence, clearly, but it's against high school guys. He seems as big as Trevor Lawrence. And so, and that was kind of my takeaway of watching it. I do kind of have a theory question for you guys, because it seems like this class is really good. It seems like watching these guys. And do you think it's just that it's the shiny new toy and we just haven't seen these guys fail yet? Or do you think this class is really good?
I think it's good. I actually like some of the other guys too. I think it's kind of deeper than what we're gonna go. Like, we're going over the top 5, but yes. I know we're gonna talk about like Jackson Dart, who I like. I think he's better than Slovis. And then you have Jake Garcia, who I know you put on the show sheet. Even like Miller Moss is a kid from USC too. Like, he's actually has some good tape as well. I think it's okay. I think it's a little deeper than we're used to.
Yeah, I see that.
I'm with you there. Jalen Milroe, too, probably deserves a shout. I think it's a deep class, but what we're going to see, I think, is 2 to 4 guys stand out, and then the other guys kind of fade away. I'm nervous that Vandegrift might be one that fades away.
I see that.
Yeah. No, I can see that. I like how you brought up – when you watch this film, that dude just throws in the triple coverage. Like, that guy he don't give a shit. Like, it is so funny to watch it. And he's got the arm. Like, I think at one point I saw him throw like a 65-yard pass in the air, and that guy just hucks it. And so I think it's going to be that. I think when I was watching or reading about him, he did have lower competition in high school. So they did mention that. Like, he was used to getting away with kind of some of those throws. And that's definitely something to look at. And we all know Kirby hates that. So we're going to have to just kind of deal with Kirby forever until he gets let go there. Now, the next guy we'll talk about him quicker, because I did already mention him last week when I talked about Michigan. That's my boy, J.J. McCarthy, the savior. The savior is back, right? So he talks about. I like this kid a lot. I wish he wasn't going to Michigan so then I could really like him, because I'm just so worried about what is going to happen when he gets there. I did an entire QB breakdown of these guys, and I really feel like he should start. He's going to bring the team to that extra level, and it's just one of those things. I think he has great accuracy. I think that's the one thing that stands out about him the most. I know his arm strength could use some work. I think it will with proper training for his footwork and mechanics, but his accuracy is legit. Like, he's done a good job with it. He gets the ball to the right receivers. He does reads very well. He's very good outside the pocket too, and he has a little bit of that kind of rushing ability. You'll see it here, like if you're watching on there. He can kind of extend plays. He does good on the outside the pocket and on the run. Like, there's a lot of good things that he does. I'm just worried about they're going to ruin him at Michigan. That's my biggest concern. Is like, will they ruin him as a prospect? But I could see him. Like, I think 247. I comped him to Stafford-ish light. I saw Kyle Allen as a comp out there. So you see these kind of little comps there. I like it. I like his delivery. He's pretty solid all around the board. I don't think he does anything that bad. He's I think he has the safest floor.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's one of those. He can get down the field and make plays with his legs at the high school level, but I don't know if it translates to the college level. Sort of just kind of scrambling, getting out of trouble a little bit. He's certainly not the type of athlete I think that Caleb Williams or Drake May might be, but he's got the tool. He's got a great arm, and so he's certainly the savior. And so I am hoping that you guys can put things together a little bit and be. Back up to that level where we're looking forward to that last game in November a little bit more.
Man, this is the best quarterback that Harbaugh has had ever already before he steps foot on the field this fall. And I think if all things go accordingly and we see J.J. McCarthy versus Kyle McCord here in the next couple of years, I think that's going to be a fun quarterback matchup. I think Michigan, I know Kevin's pretty pessimistic, and rightfully so, and Jeff's kind of sarcastically hopeful for them so that the game can be real. I think Michigan has a chance to turn it around. Harbaugh could poop all over it and say, nope, J.J. McCarthy, you're not good anymore. But I think he is going to be good for them. I think he's going to elevate them a bit.
Yeah. No, I'm going to be optimistic, but I also am just going to just sit back and hope that he does well. I know I'm not sure Jake Garcia or Jackson Dart, one of those guys. Christian, you want to talk about one of those guys?
Garcia is good. Dart is also good. Dart is a guy like Vandegrift, though, that I think he needs to clean up some of his decision making, and just he throws some hospital balls as well. But at least he throws the balls. Slovis won't. So I'm intrigued to see if Dart can force his way on the field. Just side note on Slovis, it was really, really good hearing some draft analysts confirm all of our biases here. About how Slovis just isn't it. And then Garcia, quickly, I think Garcia, a lot of people love De'Aaron King, and I get it. De'Aaron King's played in college football for 7 years, at least, minimum. But I think there's a chance that Jake Garcia works his way onto the field. He's probably third on the depth chart now, too. But in a world where De'Aaron King isn't fully healthy right away, I think we could see a bit of Garcia, kind of like a quarterback rotation there. And I'm intrigued by that. Jeff, you were the one that wrote Garcia. Do you like him quite a bit?
I do like him. Yeah, I really like what we saw in the spring game. I thought he did a good job placing the ball when he came in. I was just looking for maybe some deeper names that we didn't mention in the top 5. And, you mentioned Mill Rowe. That's another guy that could be excited about. And I think Jackson Dart has already got his loyal fan base building and brewing and ready to see him get a chance versus Slovis. But I don't know. It was nice to see some confirmation, hear some confirmation. I listened to Bucky and Dan and Jeremiah on Move the Sticks, and they talked about the upcoming quarterbacks, and I don't think they even mentioned Slovis on that episode, so that was kind of nice.
Yeah, and I think it's there. Well, one guy we didn't cover, I know we got to move on, is Ty Thompson from Oregon. I like Ty. Some people have him in the top 5. I'm not there yet with him. He's 6'4", 215. His numbers are fantastic. Like, he put up almost 10,000 yards passing, somewhere close to that in high school. Like, his numbers in high school are phenomenal. I think he's got to really develop. And outside of the spring game, what I heard was that he really struggled with the coverages, the speed. So I think Ty is going to take some time, which is unfortunate for Oregon because they're stacked at every position but quarterback. And so it would have been helpful if he would have came in there and be able to do that. But just to give a shout out to Ty, I know he's going to be developing in there, but he's one of those other guys I thought we should go there and talk about real quick.
They're the Denver Broncos of college football.
Butterfield, though. I like Jay Butterfield.
Yeah, I like Butterfield as well. I do want to shout out Buchner as well. I feel like that's your guy, Kevin. I feel like we didn't mention him a ton. Another guy that should be on the field, won't be on the field, but should be on the field. Over who the hell is the starter there now? Jack Cohn, I guess. I guess that's what we're rolling with. I think Buchner could see. A lot of people think that Notre Dame's going to lose to Cincy, and then after that, it's Buchner's team, and hopefully we get to see that.
But Brian Kelly's going to ruin that for me. That's why I didn't want to bring him up, because if Jack Cohn is playing at the end of the season next year, I'm just going to be beside myself. All right, so
Jack Cohn is playing at the end of the season, it's because they made the playoff with Jack Cohn. Because otherwise,
they won't make the playoff with Jack Cohn. If they make the playoffs with Jack Cohn, I will shave my beard just for you, Felix. Now let's go into our next section, which is the Sportsbook Rundown. Jeff, why don't you get us going?
Yeah, absolutely. So, long-time watchers, first-time watchers, great to have you in. So, we break the end of the show up into 3 different games. We are playing for a hypothetical turnover chain of immunity to avoid hitting the wheel of death. And so, we started off. Christian will lead us off with the Sportsbook Rundown.
Yeah, also, I forgot. I believe I hold the chain right now.
You do hold the chain right now, Christian.
I always keep it handy so that when I forget, I can just toss it right on. Okay, the Sportsbook Rundown. I got to be honest with you guys. Not a lot of sports on right now. I was going to pick 4 baseball games, and I said, no, we're not. We don't want to do that. And so what I did is I chose a doubleheader, the Padres versus the Braves. We'll talk about that. An MLS game, and then we added Game 6, Bucks versus Suns. It's still happening, and it's pretty close, so I think we should still pick it. Yeah. And so the doubleheader, we're going to pick both games, Padres versus Braves. They play, I think, tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. Jeff, who are you picking for Game 1?
The Braves.
Okay. And Kevin?
I'm going to take the Padres in both games. So I just make it easy for you.
That's your team, Kevin, or what's your team? The Giants are your team, right?
I'm a Giants fan, but the West Coast team. I got to stick with the West Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I too. I'm gonna say they split. So Jeff, who's your pick for game 2?
I'll take the Padres for game 2. So you can
Okay.
go opposite if you want to. I don't
Right
know
now the Braves are going to go.
who's pitching. So this is dynamite analysis here that we've got. We don't even know who's pitching. We're picking these Major League Baseball games. We need college.
I'm picking the
football.
West
That's
Coast team. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't even know who is on the team to pitch, and so
Are you
If
like
you
going
do-
to Atlanta or something? What's going on here?
no, I don't know. I think I picked it because it's Cincinnati. So the MLS game that we're picking is FC Cincinnati. Shout out to that new team versus Atlanta United. Shout out to that newer team. And I think I got excited at the prospects of new MLS teams. So Jeff, who you picking in this match? I believe also tomorrow. I don't know when this game even is.
We got to go with the Ohio team, of course. We got to go with Cincinnati, even though they are the rivals from my beloved Columbus Crew, or beloved-ish. Go Crew.
I was just gonna say, are you actually a Crew fan, Jeff?
Well, I mean, they won the championship like last year, or the year before, didn't they?
Sounds right.
I think they won the championship last year. So yeah, of course, go Crew.
All right, Kevin,
Yeah.
who you picking?
I'm going to just go with Atlanta because it's against Cincinnati and it's against Ohio State, basically, to me.
They won the championship. I remember because it was the same day of the. Remember when the dude from Florida threw the shoe against LSU? It was like the game was because I was flipping between the two games.
Yeah, that was Marco. Is that his name? That sounds like his name.
Yeah,
That threw the
shoe
shoe.
thrower. Yeah.
Yeah. Marco Wilson sounds right. Maybe that's wrong. All right, Game 6, Bucks versus Suns. It is. I don't know what the score is, but like I said, I think it's halftime. Maybe. Jeff, who you picking?
Suns.
The
We
Suns
gotta
are at
get
five right
Game
now.
7. Suns. Let's go.
Okay.
I'm going to go Suns as well because I want to see a Game 7, but I know they're going to choke. But I'm going to go Suns.
I'm just gonna go Bucks, even though I think the Suns are gonna win, just to be different and keep my chain, hopefully, because I'm hoping to win the rest of these. And then Jeff or Kevin added in the note, where are all the sports? When do the Olympics start? Simone Biles. Why COVID? Also, why is college football not here? Sums up our thoughts. We cannot wait to bring actual college football games into this segment. So if you've hung with us for the last few months, stick with us because I think it's going to be a lot more fun when we can pick Ohio State versus Minnesota in a few weeks. So.
Yes.
Yeah, and shout out to Christian who won last week for this. So he's up 1-0 as we go into prospect poker here. All right, prospect poker. The rules of the game are simple. We're going to toss 3 cards in the river and each holds 2. So we're going to play prospect poker here. But what we are going to actually do, instead of kind of prospects and all that, we're going to have a little fun. We're going to, before we review our favorite our cards, we're going to talk about our favorite bowl games of all time and some that we don't really like or don't understand. So, Christian, why don't you go first?
Yes. So the bowl that I picked is the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. And the reason it's always got 2 good teams that I think could rival for a playoff spot. It seems to always have that. But the reason I really picked it, Chick-fil-A, great fast food restaurant, Peaches, great fruit. And so you mix those 2 together. And I feel like Chick-fil-A sponsored this for a few years. So when you mix those 2 together, plus good football, also the Rose Bowl was already taken. And so this was my secondary choice, but that's my reasoning.
Okay, so we've got our first flip here. We got a 4 of hearts, an 8 of spades, and a 7 of clubs. And Christian's going to flip up an ace of diamonds. And so, I would have taken the Rose Bowl too, but we allowed Kevin, since his team doesn't go to the Rose Bowl, we allowed him to talk about the Rose Bowl. And so that's his game. But I am going to talk about a bowl game in Michigan that is very close to my heart. The Motor City Bowl, I've been there twice. I saw Aretha Franklin perform there. I saw my beloved Ohio Bobcats play there. So that is a lower level game that it's just a special game to me personally. And so that's my pick for bowl game because I think that's about the only bowl game that's reasonably close to driving distance to Columbus, Ohio or Northwest Ohio where I grew up. But my flip, a queen of diamonds.
All right, yeah. As Jeff pointed out, my favorite is the Rose Bowl. As a Big Ten guy, I love it. the first ever game at Rose Bowl was January 1st, 1923. So it's one of the longest bowl games in there. It's fantastic. I love everything about it. If you've never been to the parade, if you've never been to pageantry, like the whole event, it's an event. And I went a few years ago. I can't wait to go back. Now that COVID is going to allow us to go back. I absolutely love it. I went to the Penn State game a few years ago on that one. Like, it's just a fantastic atmosphere. And so the Rose Bowl is 1A for me. I mean, there's nothing else like it.
And Kevin's flip, a 9 of hearts. And Felix, I do absolutely love the state of Michigan. We go on vacation there every year, and so Michigan's a special state to me. But I'd give them the shout out any time.
You gave them the RESPCT
absolutely
that they deserve.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about our worst bowl games here. Christian, you got one?
Yeah, my least favorite is the Cheez-It Bowl. Again, I just stuck to the food associated with the bowl. The Cheez-It Bowl, I don't even remember the last couple of teams that have played in there. And so when you add that with Cheez-Its or an overrated snacking option, I don't like the Cheez-It Bowl. Find a new sponsor.
5 of hearts. And so my bowl game is a big-time bowl game, and I do like the game. My frustration is with the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl, because growing up, that was the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl, and that was one of the most perfectly sponsored named bowls, because the Tostito Fiesta Bowl just rolls off your tongue and it gives you good warm feelings. And now it's the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl, and you're just kind of like, all right, well, PlayStation, cool. Corporate takeover America. But my flip, a king of spades, and we are just on fire here.
Kevin's
I need a pair. But what I will say is that I didn't know this was a bowl until I saw it today, the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. And I put, what the F is that? And it's essentially, for me, the Guaranteed Rate Bowl just feels like everything wrong with college football, like just the commercialized of college football. All these bowl games, and they actually named it the Guaranteed Rate just because I'm sure it's some 6-6 team from in Mountain West that's going to play in this game, and it's just everything that you need to know. The commercial, everything, it's trash. I can't believe it's called the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. It just hurts my soul to say that out loud.
A king. Oh, so I think Christian takes it
want to win.
An ace high. Yeah. Wow, we're just great.
Great poker players.
Okay.
Here.
Great poker players here. And so the next game that we're going to do is a little bit of blackjack. And so how we play a little bit of blackjack, we throw out our cards and we have to turn. If you get the question, we're going to ask you a trivia question. If you get the question right, you get to add or subtract a score, whatever works best for you. If you get the question wrong, then the opposite happens to you. So Christian's tossing up an 18. Kevin is tossing up a 5, and I'm tossing up a 8, and just really great there. But Kevin, you go ahead if you want a trivia question.
Yeah, sure.
You want me to ask? Jeff, you have one?
I don't. It's complicated with my computer screen. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
I should have wrote it down.
Okay, Kevin. What year was the very first MAC football championship? We're getting deep.
What year is the first MAC football?
I can give you 4 options too.
Yeah, give me 4 options. That helps me out a little bit.
Okay, 1936, why are these backwards? 1947, 1929, 1919.
I'm gonna go 1947.
That is correct. Good job.
Wow.
Nice. Look at that.
And you busted. Oh no. You can
No. He's sitting at 16. So
16. I'll take
17, whatever he needs to be.
I'm gonna lose anyway.
Okay. I'll go. Somebody got a question for me?
You have one, Kevin?
Yeah, no, I got one. All right, Jeff, 2019. Who was the leading quarterback in PPR formats?
2019, the leading quarterback in PPR formats was that was the Lamar Jackson year.
It was. Look at you, Lamar Jackson. Got it right.
Oh,
Your
cool.
favorite
That's
quarterback.
Good.
All right, so that puts me up at 20. So,
ooh, that means I have to hit next.
That's 19, right?
Well, no, it'd be 8 plus 11, it'd be 19, but I got it right, so I can be at 20.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you changed the rules for this. My bad. My math brain was kicking in a little bit.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Gotcha.
All right. Someone hit me with a question. And by someone, I mean Kevin.
I just can't. I'm just trapped here. So the screen sharing is backfired.
All right, so I'm gonna have to filibuster for a second. 2018, Christian. Who was the QB1 in 2018?
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, you got it. But that's an easy question. But Patrick Mahomes.
I just looked that up. That wasn't fair.
Well,
and he got blackjack.
You got blackjack.
Got blackjack.
I think
Okay.
Christian wins. So
Christian just kill us.
Yeah, I
Christian
swept.
killed us tonight.
all right.
All right, FaceTime, Christian. Go ahead. 30
FaceTime
seconds.
for
30
Christian.
second FaceTime.
Okay, I'm gonna take this opportunity. I tweeted out, but it's much easier to tweet than it is to actually say things out loud, right? I just want to say how much I appreciate you two. You guys are freaking awesome. Jeff, the articles that you've been pumping out, Kevin, the videos that you guys have been making. I don't think that we have enough of this in the space. What we have a lot of is shout outs on Twitter and stuff like that. So I think everyone could do a good job of trying to tell people in person that they appreciate them, and I appreciate you too. So that's what I wanted to use my 30 seconds for today.
Thank you, man. That means a lot.
I appreciate that. And you're killing it, and you're building up the cut and doing all that stuff. But hey, we're just here because we like football and we like fantasy, and I think we all do it a good way. And all these guys work their ass off. So we hope you're enjoying the show.
Yes, that too. I should have said also we have a YouTube, because I said that I would try to push that at the end of next show. So we have a YouTube, guys. You should go check it out. That's
all
it.
right. So next week on July 27th, we'll be back again at 9:30 on the Going for Two Network. Be sure to catch us in that family of pods. Until then,
hey, I'm Kevin Coleman at @TheBoys_22.
I'm Jeff Ballett, for whom J Bell tolls.
And I am Christian Williams at C Williams NFL, and this is the Devy Royale.